This one movie, it was called Miracle in the Seventh Cell. Oh my gosh, talk about a tearjerker. That was absolutely insane. And then I saw this other movie that I hated, but you got to give credit where there's credit. So The Platform, it was pretty intense.
Not seen a lot of new movies, but I have rewatched a couple of old favorites. Netflix just added probably my favorite Tom Cruise movie of all time. It's called The Last Samurai. So I rewatched that at the beginning of the quarantine.
I haven't watched any new movies, but I started watching, I'm going through this order to watch the Marvel movies because, Thor, that's it, period.
Funny Face and Roman Holiday, both starring Audrey Hepburn. Funny Face is just musical genius. Like seeing her dance next to Fred Astaire is just one of the most quintessential moments of that age in Hollywood that makes you remember a time when films weren't so bleak. But Roman Holiday is perhaps one of the better romantic comedies that has ever been created. It ends, and I'm not going to ruin it, but it ends on a note that is heartbreaking but true, and it's beautiful, and it's not like I've recently watched some really famous romantic comedies with my wife. Notting Hill, great scene.
I'm also just a girl standing in front of a boy, asking him to love her.
Like, that scene. But it's so corny. So is How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Everyone's seen that movie, but it's extremely corny. It's littered with little moments that make you go, okay, that would never happen. And Roman Holiday, despite it being a crazy plot, feels more realistic than any of those rom-coms of the 90s or early 2000s. So I would definitely recommend, if you feel like falling in love and crying your heart out, watch Roman Holiday. If you want a good time, watch Funny Face.
Miracle in the Seventh Cell, more like a humanity, suffering, justice system failure, how it's about who you know, how everything can be bought off. Very real life, very relatable to what actually happens and can happen, and everyone's aware of things that go on. But it's a very beautiful story, very, I don't know, heart-wrenching, close to the heart. And then there's The Platform. It's what is it? It's really weird. It makes a metaphor with capitalism and the class system, and it makes you question everything you thought you knew, and then the vulgarness, or I'm not sure if that's a word, how disgusting and how real you can relate, and it's just extremely disturbing. But then when you take the perspective from the creator and the director and the story behind everything you're observing and watching, it's pretty intense. So craziness.
I am a big fan of fish out of water movies where, an individual or a group of people find themselves in a completely different environment and they learn sort of how to adjust to this new lifestyle. So Tom Cruise plays an American soldier and he finds himself in feudal Japan in the late 1800s. And it's the story of this sort of jaded American learning to not just value Japanese culture, but also figuring out how much that culture has to offer him. So I really enjoyed those stories.
Again, going back to the idea of a rom-com, I like romantic comedies. They're ridiculous, but they're fun. They're lighthearted, but what they always lack is, in lieu of the embellished romance of it all, is the realism to it. And I think the films of the early 50s, some films of the early 50s and early 60s really try to convey what a romantic relationship should look like. They didn't focus so much on what we see in romance today. Romance is heavily influenced by lust. And back in the day, there were those elements that just kind of overrid that, such as character, presentation. It wasn't all aesthetics. It was more like how someone was a true gentleman, and a woman was a good, pure, kind, or witty woman. And you know, you kind of miss that in today's rom-coms. Everyone's beautiful, and in the rom-coms of back then, not every actor was beautiful, and so it had that. The director was really trying to give you a realistic story as much as possible.
Miracle in the Seventh Cell, there were a couple of things, you know, just because I guess everything could get better. I'd give Miracle in the Seventh Cell at least a 4.7. And then The Platform, oh man, as much as I hated that movie, give to Caesar what is Caesar, probably like a 4.8. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those awkward shows you want to hate, and then you're like, dude, wow, it taught me something, you know?
The Last Samurai gets 5 stars from me because it's my favorite Tom Cruise movie of all time, and he has several good ones.
Samurai is a really underrated Tom Cruise movie. When people think of Tom Cruise, they probably think of like Top Gun, Mission Impossible, Jerry Maguire, Rain Man, but The Last Samurai is definitely one of his best action movies outside of the Mission Impossible franchise. The war scenes are really good, and he, of course, gives a great performance like he always does. You really feel for his character and the flashbacks and the emotions he's going through, and the way he learns a lot from the samurais he's living with and the Japanese people. So A+ Tom Cruise performance, and or just a really good movie overall.
I rated it a 5. It's really good. And then, I mean, I Love You 3000.
Holidays, an easy 5. It breaks my heart every time. Every time. Ask any English teacher who's seen it. It's a gut. But Funny Face, about a 4. Yeah, there's better musicals out there.